Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our special council meeting for the 2023 budget. I'd like to call the meeting to order on this February 2nd, 2023 at approximately 6 p.m. As we call the meeting to order, we'll start with our land acknowledgement that we respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Capmonaghan is located on the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory in the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to First Nations for their care for and teachings about these lands. May we honor these teachings. To get things started, we'll look for a motion to approve the agenda before us tonight. Councillor Byrne, Deputy Mayor Huntley, all in favor? That is carried. Looking for a disclosure of pecuniary interest at this time. Seeing none, we'll move on. There is no closed session. The first report for tonight is Ms. Pope, but before we start, we do need a motion to accept the updated 2023 budget presentation, which includes the updates from this afternoon's meeting. Moved by Deputy Mayor Huntley and seconded by Councillor Natchoff. All in favor? That is carried. Very good. Ms. Pope, over to you.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to Council and public who are present here this evening and online. We will review the finance report that was presented today at 1 o'clock. However, we'll come back at the very end to go over the changes between the 1 o'clock version and the motions that were presented by Council today and approved. So therefore, if we could move to page 3, just under overview. Perfect, thank you. So the second draft budget presentation in the original draft that went this morning or today at 1 o'clock was considering a 5.1% municipal tax levy or further reductions to bring the tax levy down. As of the meeting today, it has been reduced to 3%, and I'll speak to that in a few moments. The two public budget presentations are available to have further discussion with Council and with the public at 6 p.m. As an overview of the changes between the first and the second draft, at the bottom, there was a $25,000 capital reduction on the corporate strategic plan update, which has since been advised, and I'll speak to that in a moment. $50,000 capital reduction in the Millbrook Valley Trails Bridge Boardwalk repairs, and $96,912 in the capital reduction for Crossroads culverts. Those first three were approved by motion in the first draft meeting in December. The additional reductions that were achieved by the Budget Committee and staff was the $111,101 capital reduction after reserve transfer for the CMCC splash pad and water feature and fitness equipment. This was primarily because the Parks and Recreation Master Plan is not expected to be finalized until the fall of 2023, and therefore these timelines do not align with the Ontario Trillium Fund grant starting date of no later than May 31st, 2023. In addition, they have a 12-month completion program. Therefore, they have confirmed that there is no flexibility on this timeline, and therefore we have to await the delivery of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan to proceed with the approval of any recreational capital projects. There was an addition to Parks and Facilities capital transfer to reserves for Splash Pad and Maple Leaf Playground. There has been adjustment, and I'll speak to that in a moment. So that has changed. The $89,000 is a reduction because we were able to bring forward for 3 positions that remain vacant and were not filled last year. We already levied those funds in the 2022 tax rate, and therefore we don't need to levy those funds again. So that has reduced the budget. And the debenture for the fire hall was first estimated for the last 2 quarters of the year in the first draft. This draft has removed it down to just the last quarter because we're not anticipating full build until that point. And then there were various operational budget revisions, which amended fuel, conservation levies, and corporate insurance confirmations, and a review of actuals to budget. In the pre-approval request today, there was a pre-approval approved by Council for SCBA units, and that's to ensure that the fire department can partner with autonomy and put out a tender prior to final budget approval to replace the SCBAs, which are expiring in 2024, and to gain optimum pricing while providing ample time for extended delivery timelines and lead time constraints. In the budget that was discussed today at 1 o'clock, we were looking at either keeping the budget at 5.1% or reductions. Council did settle on 3% as the tax increase Thereby, we needed to reduce by $225,000, and I'll speak to that in a few moments. Approximately every 1% of the municipal residential tax rate increase equals an additional $106,900 in revenue towards operating and capital budgets. The year-to-date actuals that are provided within this budget include up to and including November 30th, and there may potentially also be some December items in there if they had arrived by the cutoff for this report. The tax levy comparison is there to provide you with the changes in CVA year over year. You can see that we have a 2% increase over last year because the tax rate was not set at the point of the posting of this draft. That remained blank, but as I've said, council has settled to 3% for the final draft. A 1% municipal tax levy increase equals a property tax increase of $6.95 per 100,000 of current value assessment, which is also $27.80 if you have a current value assessment of $400,000. As a reminder, these are 2016 phase-in values. These are not 2022 or 2023 market or sale value for your home. Most homes in the community that are selling somewhere between $800,000 to $1 million have an assessment value around $400,000 to $450,000 of the 2016 phase-in value. Further down, we have MPAC provincial property assessment update. The province has postponed the update for 2021, 2022, and again for this year, 2023, and therefore the rates remain at that 2016 phase-in value. At one point when they do decide to release it province-wide, we will all move together. It is the denominator factor, so we're not actually increasing or multiplying by those amounts. We're simply all moving together. So if the overall township is moving by 10% and you're moving by 10%, you shouldn't see a shift. If the entire township is moving by 10% and you move 8%, you should see a reduction. If the entire township is moving 10% and say you move 15%, then you will see an increase. So it's not a direct multiplier. The following is during the education at the first draft meeting, I provided this as just a summary sheet of phase-in because usually it is over a 4-year period. If you owned a house and it was originally $162,000, then each year in this particular example, they're increasing by $16,500. But right now we don't have phase-in, we're still using 2016 values. Next page. Financial impact on the operating. As per the summary, you can see that overall for all departments within the municipality, we have a 9.1% increase. It does vary by department, and we also provide the variance in a dollar value, so it's clear to not misrepresent any of the numbers. As you go down, the other consolidated other services, which are more external agencies and not internal departments, the overall average there is 10.2%. If you add them together and average them out, you're looking at about a 9.4% overall. Water, wastewater we include here to show you the 3.3% increase overall. However, water and wastewater is borne by the user fees, not paid through property taxes, so that does not affect property taxes. As mentioned in first draft, the union collective agreements were renewed in 2022. And the wage increase is 5.25% over that 3-year term. And consumer price index rose by 7%, which is a year-over-year average of 12 months from August to August. And the construction price index rose 15.6% year-over-year, and that impacted our 2023 development charges. There will be an additional report going to council about some of the changes in Bill 182, but at this point, the 15.6 is what all the municipalities are facing as far as the construction price index. And council received and approved the user fees and charges bylaw to ensure that municipal revenues for services reduce the impact of the cost of those services. As a departmental summary, some of these impacts happen to all our departments, so rather than repeating them as we walk through, these are summarized at the top with source deductions and benefit rates increasing, a 30% increase to corporate insurance, 9% overage eligibility for part-time staff upon hire, whereas previously they had to work 2 years at 700 hours each year. That is no longer the case. It's upon hire. 7% CPI wage grid indexing, 3% increase to hydro, gas, and fuel, 2% to VoIP or landline phone service, and 2% across internal allocations. Included in this report includes all the debenture estimates for the 3 capital projects that are ongoing, with the Parks and the Public Works Millbrook Depot completed in 2022. We'll just move through the summaries that were provided in the report. We'll stop at the environmental tax rate. Thank you. There's a total levy increase of $98,345 for the operational costs for waste programs, landfill monitoring, and transfer station expenses. In addition, the waste collection contract was tendered in 2022 and had substantial increased costs. Therefore, in Public Works 2022-18, it was approved that we would continue our contract with Withers Waste, and the changes are reflected in the calculations. The budget equals an environmental tax rate increase of about $4.93 per 100,000 of current value assessment based on the MPAC rule, or if you own a home that has a 400,000 CVA, then the increase would be $19.72. Again, water and wastewater is based on the financial plan rate study and user fees and Watson Associate rate study analysis. Any funds remaining at the end of the year are always transferred into the water and wastewater reserve for future years of capital or operating. The water service is user paid and does not affect the municipal tax rate. Capital, this year, they're identified in the detailed report. We will go back to that because we made some changes at the 1 o'clock meeting today. However, those changes netted to zero except for the asset replacement reserve. So we will speak to those, but this is just a summary of that. The capital infrastructure projects that are ongoing, as I said, the Parks and Public Works Millbrook Depot completed in 2022. And in 2023, we're working through with the rollovers on the Cavan Public Works Operations Center and the Fire and Ambulance Station. They remain the same as reported in the first draft. The pre-approvals approved by Council on December 8th, 2022 include the replacement for the John Deere grader and the International Tandem truck and the Main Street water main and roadworks. The grant applications that are being carried forward are still reported the same as in the first budget report. And we can continue past that into municipal modernization program. That grant application, we do have another application in process, but we do not have any information to provide at this time. COVID, the fiscal impact on COVID is a total of $593,410 in total. We did receive $325,430 in funding to support the related costs, and funding has been applied to the revenue losses. May 21st, the storm fiscal impact update. We ended up with $100,350 between May 21st and December 31st. However, you had to exceed 3% of your general and environmental levy, which would have been $325,149. Therefore, because we did not meet that threshold, we were unable to apply for the municipal disaster recovery assistance. Therefore, there's no funds that we received for that either. Stabilized tax rate and asset replacement. We've had success through partnership, through council and staff, reducing the budget and moving forward to eliminate the OLG dependency. It occurred in 2013 when we were able to remove those revenues from the operating budget. Again, in 2015, when we were able to remove the OLG revenues from the capital budget. And phase 3, we've been funding the asset replacement reserve transfers without any use of the OLG funds. To date, we have transferred greater than 80% since 2016 and a cumulative total of about $18 million. That does fluctuate because we do pull from there as well when we're purchasing new assets. It helps with covering the cost and not levying it directly onto the taxpayer in that year. In 2023, the initial draft, second draft was at 100%, but council has asked for a reduction there. We'll speak to that in a moment. Reserve and reserve funds are the same as what was presented at the time of the financial statements, the 2021 financial statements by the auditors in July of 2022. and an updated estimated balance will be provided to council now that we've closed the 2022 year for the final report. We can go back up. That concludes the report from 1 o'clock today. We can go back up to the first page and we'll just discuss the changes that occurred at the 1 o'clock report today. The recommendations of this section is that council will receive the second draft 2023 budget president amendment, which includes the changes by motion as approved during today's 1 o'clock special meeting, and that council receives the comments from the public on the second draft 2023 budget as amended. So today at the special council meeting at 1 o'clock, council approved a 3% municipal residential tax rate increase to fund the operating and capital budgets for the final budget report to be presented on February 21st, 2023. The operating changes were with the library board. The library board operating levy was given to the library at 9.1% over last year, the 2022 budget, which amounted to $306,520. The capital levy presented by the library board today was approved at full value. The second draft budget presentation amendment to the capital are identified and will go to the capital sheet in a moment as attached, but the combined net changes of all those changes netted to $0. Therefore, council directed staff to reduce the 2023 capital budget further to achieve the 3% municipal residential tax rate to fund the operating and capital budgets for the approval for February 21st. Therefore, the asset replacement reserve was reduced by $173,938, and the amended transfer to the reserve is now $2,434,109, and this represents 9.3% of the, sorry, that should read 93%, pardon me, that's 93% of the audited 2021 depreciation value. If we could open up the other attachment, which is the capital request page, thank you. So you can see there highlighted in yellow are where the changes occurred today. So that's the new value for asset replacement of the 2.4 million. As we go down the corporate strategic plan, that was moving from the specific reserve transfer over to actually purchasing and doing that project, I believe in the fall of this year. So that's the 25,000 there. If we continue down further, the transfer to the splash pad water features was increased from the original draft at 50,000 to 90,000. The Maple Leaf playground transfer, the second draft originally had 10,000. It was increased to 59,000. And then as you can see below, the Maple Leaf Park under number 8, playground equipment, the second draft was 95,000 and that was removed. On the next page, the 2007 International Tandem was approved in 2021. Due to pricing, we required an additional 16,000. So it was approved in this budget to move from the 292,000 that we already had to add the 16,000. So the purchase price of 308,000 could be paid. And I believe if we go up, I missed one, just it's in here, but I just have to speak to it. It was the charger. Yep, on page 1. Nope, sorry. Page. Okay, thank you. I just couldn't see it. We removed, it was originally at 10,000 for the EV charger, and that was also removed from the budget. And those are the changes from the first draft or the second draft provided today at 1 o'clock to this second draft continuation conversation with the public at 6 o'clock.
Thank you, Ms. Pope. That is the summary of the, is there any questions with regards for council? We've just been through this, and so this is the summary of the changes. Thank you for that, Ms. Pope. With that, I think we need a motion to receive the presentation. We received it, the updated content. Do we need to receive it at the end of that, or does that cover us off on the initial motion? Or would we like a motion to receive that report now that it's been presented?
Through you, Mayor, we'll have a motion at the end when we received to the very end, yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So with that, we'll move to the portion of the public meeting. So with that, I need a resolution to open the public meeting for public input, moved by Deputy Mayor Huntley and Councillor Byrne. All in favor? That is approved. So just a little bit of housekeeping. So as you'll notice, these mics light up And if your mic's not lit, we can't hear you. So, and only one mic can be lit at a time. So we're literally doing the cadence of waiting for each person. So when you ask a question, please tap the button to ask the question. And then when you're finished, tap the button so your mic's off, and then I'll direct the reply from the appropriate member of staff. Okay? That's the tutorial, I guess. So with that, we'll open the public meeting. And then when you come to the podium there to address the council and staff, if you could just state your name and your address in the municipality, and we're good to go for the record. So with that, the public meeting is open and the members of the public are invited to come forward and speak.
Al Steele, 1622 Tapley Coeur Line. I think that most people know me here. Thank you very much. A number of questions, and I'll sit down and come back up as required. But I've spent this is my third meeting today. As two other people, I sat through county meeting as well as the one at 1 o'clock, and I've sat through a number of the other meetings, the first draft as well. I want to compliment people on coming through. I guess some of the questions that come up are the whole issue about the initial ask was 9.1. We got down to 5.1, and now we're down to 3. And candidly, I have to ask, why 3? It's a simple matter. Why not 2.5, which was last year's because of COVID and all the other issues? Or why not half of the 9.1? Why 3? And I'll leave that for the question. As I say, I have a number of other questions as well, some technical.
That's an interesting question. I'm not sure if a member of staff can answer that question. So I guess you're asking for members of council. Why 3? I think given I can speak for myself, I guess briefly, but my 3% is one of the lowest municipal rates that I've heard, given the pressures in the industry. And I think that the concern with going further than 3 would mean a further reduction of the asset replacement reserve, which is not something that I felt comfortable pursuing, given the nature or the looming addition of infrastructure and costs of municipal buildings, et cetera, that are needing to be added to that pool. So we have this whole year of maintaining the same level of assets that we've been pursuing for quite some time. And with the addition of more, the 2.6% of 100% funding will only get further and further out of reach. So what the idea is that I don't know if there's been a year previous where we've put, that I can remember, that we've put over 90%, let alone over 93% towards that reserve. But the idea is that to do it now, because that is going to become a much bigger hurdle to cross in the future. I don't know if other members of council would like to speak to that, but that's my answer. Deputy Mayor Huntley.
Through you, Chair, to Al and everybody else, I guess, is there's a lot of pressures as has been alluded to, and inflation's at an all-time high this year since like I think 82, I think was the closest it's been this high. And things like the county, school boards, they're all going to put extra pressure on this year's tax. So from a municipal perspective, I think it's responsible for us to really be fiscally responsible this go round, and at the same time position ourselves for great projects in the next couple of years, which is what I think we've done.
Seeing no other hands, we'll open the public meeting again if anyone would like to ask a question. Mr. Steele, welcome back.
Thank you for the answer. And I think if you remember last year, my caveat of looking at last year's was the whole issue of inflation coming in and the whole thing about reserve, that the reserve was dropped down on last year's budget as well. I too am very concerned with the amount of spend that's taking place and the whole asset reserve that has to go into place to carry that on. And I believe that we have to be very cognizant that we can be building a bubble that happens. All we have to do is look at the number of condo organizations in the GTA and around the whole country. All of a sudden, there's not enough reserve left, and you get special assessments of $100,000, basically putting people out having to sell their piece of property. So I'm one of the people that really believes what you spend, you need to be covering for it, and you need to look further than that. That's why I look at budgets, and when I was involved with budgeting, I had to take a look at a 2, 3, 5, and 10-year outlook and how the ripple effect from one budget hits the other budget, the future budgets, because we may be putting things off, but with other pressures that take place. And especially after the July or June 10th meeting on AMP, I really would like to know what happened, where in the budget is the amount that was talked about putting in to carry to take care of some of the shortfall that's showing up in the AMP program.
Ms. Pope?
Just for clarification for everyone here, AMP is the asset management plan. It indicates where we're at, the funding that's needed. As you know, prior to 2008, no municipality had anything in regards to books or any assets on their books. It's unfortunate. So everyone was doing a restart at that point, including this municipality. So we're very, very fortunate to have the asset reserves that we do have. Very fortunate this council takes priority on that, ensuring that we do transfer those funds. And again, as I talked about the phasing in on the OLG over the years, is there a perfect model? If we lived in a perfect society, we would have 100% of the depreciation plus any cost indices, but we don't live there. And our asset reserve is actually quite healthy in comparison to many other municipalities, and we continue to plow forward and to ensure that we have that information. As I mentioned, over the last 12 years, since we've started, we have over $18 million in there. And it did start with a slower sprawl, but we've been able to achieve 80% or higher over the last 5 years each year. And that is reflected also in the capital budget, because when we're spending to purchase a capital item, if we've had it for the last 12 years and it's been part of the depreciation schedules, then we're able to pull 12 years of depreciation and therefore offset the cost to the taxpayer at that time. So is it a fully perfect fund? No. Asset replacement, asset management and asset replacement is a difficult thing to do. In a perfect world, we'd have 100% plus cost indices, and nobody does. There is still a review on the forecasting, because the forecasting, as mentioned at that meeting, had to be updated. And I know Public Works is working on that. We will have an updated asset management plan with those changes. However, we're doing the best that we can, and we're doing very, very well. But there's always room for improvement. And like I said, when I bring forward the budget to council, I always bring forward 100% of depreciation so that they're 100% aware of what is being taken away when that choice is made.
Thank you, Ms. Pope. Other questions?
Yeah, I don't want to stand up here. I got 2 bad knees. Don't get me wrong. I think that the township has made great progress weaning itself off the OLG funds. There's no question about that. But it's one of setting expectations for the public of what they should be looking for. If you're really spending 6% coming to a 3% side of things and just pushing something off so that it looks good, is just avoiding the inevitable. It just compounds itself, and as we've seen with inflation, it causes issues. So I do have concerns about that, and would like to see what further along looks like for it. So I think it's work in progress, and I think that this is the caveat. We have to be more diligent. I think that being out of the woods, we're not. I think it's going to be a tough number of years before we catch up, and hoping that prices go down significantly is a panacea. You have to be realistic in what these things happening are, and to lead expectations. And mine always has been set expectations for people, and if you exceed them, great. But don't all of a sudden come back and people look at 3% is going to be the top end of the norm. I don't see that happen. So I'm also here, I guess, representing the 200 or the 628 other people that you just gave a pseudo increase of a significant amount. In real dollars, with the elimination of bag tags, for those people that use the transfer station and have used it for decades, I'm a 60-year resident, pseudo resident, and we've always used transfer station. For people with long driveways, and I know I've heard stories about, well, you just throw the garbage in. It's great if you have a pickup truck, but I'm one of the few people in rural cabin that doesn't have a pickup truck. And there's a number of issues about the roadways and the whole other side of it. And to say to somebody, it's just a matter of you pull the garbage out to the roadway. Well, with somebody that's got a 100-foot laneway, hey, that's nice and easy. That's nice and easy. You get to see when the garbage is picked up and not. I have 1,100 and I'm through the woods. So, and we talk about real numbers. So if you take from May to the end of the year, my increase, my payout would be for two bags at the transfer station would be $234. Based on my tax, that's an immediate real dollar 6.54% increase. If we're talking about a 3% increase as being what it is, I've just had my taxes raised 6.54% just on the bag tax. It's not that it's just a few of us out there. There are 628 based on your numbers that are out there. You know, the whole management of double dipping in the whole bed, I consider that a management issue. There are ways, you know who's got bag tags because you have to sign for them in the transfer station. All it takes is somebody to go and drive around to a few spots and take a look at those addresses. You got it. You got somebody that's breaking a bylaw. There are ways to handle these type of things. And, you know, the whole issue of curbside pickup had gone out to the cabin residents twice and it was turned down. And the first thing that this council did was voted in. Not only that, but most of the people that are impacted are, as I say, rural cabin and seniors. You know, the whole issue that each one on council, their questions at the Alcanis meetings were age in place. And the first thing you're doing is making a senior go out before 7 o'clock to go and put garbage out in the front. If you have like a number of people that I know and I've talked to have long laneways, it's a pain for them. And if you take a look at snow days, which days are they? Fridays. Can I have comments about that side of the budget, please?
Is there a specific question with regards to the program? Just sorry, I just want to direct it. I'm assuming Mr. Hancock, unless you want to speak to it, Mr. Hancock?
You know, it goes back to the report that was done. And I've done the numbers in reverse, and I've had to try to figure that out myself. And if I take a look at it, the cost, if you've got 628 people dropping off at the transfer station. So most of us, we go and drop it into the particular bins ourselves. There's no external type of thing or handling that goes on. So we use 628. If you look at that, I believe if my observations have happened, there are 2 lists approximately a week for residential garbage. Based on the tender that you have out right now, each lift is $130. So that's $260 a week for that. So if I take a look at that and divide it in, that comes down to 41 cents per resident or per household for that movement into Bentsford. The cost for the township to have Withers do it is $1.44. That's $1.01 that would be saved on it. I take that and multiply it times the number of weeks that are remaining that this would take place. And let me just see the calculation here. It's something like 39 weeks that or Fridays that would be picked up. That's $25,000 saving between curbside for those people versus versus going and dropping in the bins. I'm befuddled in trying to figure out where the $17,000 saving is. I'm sorry, the math doesn't add up to me. You know, it doesn't pass the smell test. Sorry about the pun.
So, Mr. Hancock, would you like to speak to that, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Steele. First of all, just to correct a comment you made, there is no tender out. Our tender was renewed with Withers. It is an ongoing tender, so there is no tender. The contract is not out. It is with Withers presently. The numbers that you have quoted are correct. The lift at the transfer station is $130. The per stop is $1.44 under the contract presently. The issue, first of all, we took a report to council in December and we cited a number of reasons why the bag tag program from our point was not working. We also noted to council that there is no other community in the county of Peterborough that has a curbside program that does not charge at the depots. And we made that very clear. We said that we are reported as the worst waste producer in the county of Peterborough, and it's produced, and we circulated that to council in a report on Monday. And per capita, we're over 200, while the average in the county of Peterborough is 150 something. And the majority of the waste that's showing up in that program is at the depot. So I've gone through the math, and I'm not sure about your math. And we had projected that there would be a savings of $17,000. That is in the budget. 1,000 was noted as printing of the tags. But beyond that, myself and some of the other senior staff were at the transfer station where we actually saw people throwing bags of garbage in the bin without a tag on them. And that was ourselves, forgetting about the transfer station attendants. The problem with the bag tag program is it's not working and it's not curing the problem of excess waste and no recycling. And we said that, and now we've put the motion, we put the recommendation forward, and council accepted that and they approved it. So as of April 1st, the bag tags will no longer be in place. So that's my comments on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Yep, just to reiterate, that has been a motion of council that has been passed and is in place and is not up for reconsideration at this time as it's reflected in the budget that's been approved and moving forward. Other questions?
May I please address that? Yeah, I keep on hearing about all the waste compared to all the other municipalities out there in Peterborough County. If you take a look, other than Norwood Asphodel, most of them are seasonal dwellings. So the number of full-time residents that are in those locations are significantly less than the amount of garbage that they end up taking through. Myself, as being and using the service all the way along for that period of time, I don't see people doing it. As far as tags on bags, I can tell you, I put all them on, but I can tell you that I can throw a bag in and I'll find the tag sitting in the back of the car at the end of the day. So and the whole issue of double bagging or multiple bags, you don't think that people in the urban area aren't moving bags around in order to make the difference then? So I don't want to be, it comes down to the whole issue that somebody's saying you're saving money. I just don't see it. And I'd love to see the math to be able to come back. And I can tell you that there is a number of people that are less than enamored with the thought of this. And there are a ton more that have not seen any of this yet or are unaware and become extremely frustrated with the whole thing, especially after the comments about the transfer station. As far as cost, you know, it's an interesting type of thing that people don't do this, but you need to start looking at it from a fair position. And I understand, and the other side of it, but don't penalize a group that's been doing it for decades upon decades without telling them some positive reasons why they should be changing.
Thank you, Mr. My suggestion would be that, Al, if you want more questions or to have those conversations with Wayne, I'm sure we can schedule with the department, you know, those conversations to have them further. Like I said, we want to answer questions with regards to the budget that's before us today. So I appreciate the conversation, but we'll move on to other questions related to the budget before us tonight. And Mr. Hancock can pass on his contact information to you, and you can set up that meeting to have that conversation separately. Other questions regarding other subjects for the budget tonight?
Non-garbage side, and going back to a whole issue around revenue reserve, I'm still confused when you start to talk about what comes out of reserve and what's in operation. So are capital improvements considered out of reserve, or is that operational?
Thank you. Through the chair to Mr. Steele. It's actually, only if it's a capital asset would it come out. A betterment potentially, but a regular maintenance and improvement, no. So maintenance and improvement would be done through the operating budget. You're talking about replacement, the asset replacement reserve. So whatever is depreciated upon is what we would pull down upon, but we wouldn't do regular operations and maintenance against that unless it in turn qualified as a betterment.
So would a chip and seal be an operation or a capital improvement?
So can I have a definition of what a chip and seal is, please? So that is a betterment in our community and therefore added to the asset. So yes, it goes into the depreciation reserve. It's depreciated and then pulled down on. But if it's just slurry seal, which is just the coating on top, then that is just a regular maintenance program. But that extends the life, which is fantastic, and then delays having to make the purchase from the TCA.
My kudos to Wayne, because I know that he brought it into the township. And I on Tapley Quarter Line, I used to come up early to do conference calls, And every Friday, I would see the grader down at the top end of it, trying to redo the whole thing as soon as it came through. I think it's a great program, and it has saved the township a ton of money. The whole issue is you have to keep it up, and you need to have it there to be able to do that. And as we get more assets, as the mayor has talked about, we have to make sure we have the reserves to be able to cover this off. And again, I have the same concern with the mayor in order to bring it up to a reasonable amount. And I guess I leave that as my parting comment, the same one that I did last year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steele. Other members of the public looking for a question with regards to the budget? Going once, going twice, a third time. Thanks very much, Mr. Steele, for your contributions, and thanks everyone for attending. With that, we'll look for a resolution to close the public meeting this evening. Deputy Mayor Huntley, Councillor Edgerton, all in favor? That is approved. With that, my work is required to read the confirming bylaw, which is bylaw. Oh, right, apologies. My apologies. Sleeping at the wheel. So then we have to make a motion. So there's two recommendations before us on the updated report that the clerk has just provided me, that council receives the second draft of the 2023 budget presentation. That's where we've done that. And then that council receives the comments from the public of the second draft 2023 budget presentation as amended with the comments from the public this evening. Moved by Councillor Natchoff, seconded by Councillor Edgerton. All in favor? That is approved. And with that, I now go to the confirming bylaw. Bylaw number 2023-07 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the special meeting held February 2nd, 2023 at 6 p.m. be read a first, second, and third time, signed by the mayor and the clerk with the corporate seal attached thereto. Moved by Deputy Mayor Huntley and Councillor Natchoff. All in favor? That is approved. Motion to adjourn the meeting this evening. Councillor Natchoff and Councillor Edgerton. All in favor? That is approved. Thanks everyone for coming this evening. Thanks staff for all your work.